This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Live tonight for the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to the start of the playoffs as our coverage of the 2019 Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series rolls on into tonight's Win Me Money 125. Happy that you're with us, as always, right here on LSR TV and the iRacing Esports Network. As always, Evan Pasoko, Justin Prince upstairs with you, along with our producer, Randy Chennett. And Justin, we get set to go green flag racing for the 24th time this season. But if you were with us 1 week ago, we start the postseason tonight. 16 drivers with a hope at becoming the champion in 10 weeks.
Yes, that means you have to be consistent and have to hope you have luck on your side. It's going to be a challenging test for some of the drivers to make it through all the rounds and try and fight for what could be a competitive championship this season.
And we look forward to being with you over the course of these 4 rounds, but let's take a look at our playoff grid headed into this evening. It was all based on points. There was no win and you're in, but a lot of bonus points up for grabs. And at the very top of the pylon, you see Andrew Frinage has got a ton of them. 3 bonus points entering this round of 16 for every race win on the regular season. So Frinage starts with a whopping 33-point advantage at the top of the championship. 12 bonus points are allocated to Jason Jacoby, 9 points to Connor Horn, and then both two-time winner Jonathan Cadell and Dylan Jones get 6 points. But that is only the top 5 named, Justin, so notably everybody else, you see a lot of +0 and -0. All of those drivers reset to 1,000 points. Again, over this first round, we're going to be racing for 3 races, and we will cut this field of 16 down to 12. So as we start to race deeper in, you want to stay out of that gray towards the bottom, but unless you've got race wins on the season to back you up, qualifying 16th is no better than being the number 6 seed.
Exactly right now, and so for some of these drivers, I expect their performance to try and step up. There have been many of these competitors, like Shackelford, who have been close to victory lane, but have not been able to crack their way in so far. But for these drivers, there's a chance to do so this starting today because there's a good slate of racetracks, a good mixture, so to speak. Las Vegas to start, then Richmond, then the Charlotte Roval here for the first round of the playoffs. I think there's a chance we see potentially at least a new winner in these first couple races to try and step themselves up and move themselves into the round of 12.
And now that win and you're in is in effect, so you may not want to have to push it to the Charlotte Roval, but for any of the drivers on this list, Frinage probably okay, Jacoby in a good position, but, one bad race, and those drivers 2nd through 5th fall right back down with everybody else, but a win will kick you into the round of 12, so if it is a playoff driver, that'll also be a big deal, but it all starts this evening. There are some drivers with that advantage, but you're going to have to race here to Vegas for the 2nd time this season, Justin. Notably, we were here earlier in the year where Andrew Frinage picked up his 2nd race win of the year, but it was a totally different package, so it is in effect a whole new race that Vegas can't really draw too many notes from the spring race.
It's going to be a completely different race, that's to say the very least. With this package, we have seen drivers be much more closer in the first 15 laps. The driving styles are different. The driving lines are different. The strategies are going to be different. But I think it's time to see who's got the good track position to get themselves up to the front early.
Qualifying session has drawn to a close. Let's go trackside and take a look at tonight's LSR TV starting grid for round number 24. Scott McClendon will start this one from pole position, his 30.434, the best of them all, and he will bring us to the green flag this evening with the number 23 of Jeremy E. Miller on the outside of the front row starting in second position. Then the favorite, Andrew Friedage, inside of row 2. He'll start third for this race with Thomas J. George in fourth alongside him. And in the first non-playoff driver, you'll find the 67 Blake O'Connell starting from P5.
Jason Jacoby, one of the drivers who've gotten victories this season, starts in sixth. The row behind him featuring Skylar Shackelford and Shane Parrish in the 18 machine. Brian Chambliss is starting ninth today. Rounding up the top 10 is Caleb Weekly in his number 10 car.
Daniel Everhart will be behind there at the number 11 spot with Matt Miller starting in 12th. Then Anthony Fredericks will start 13th this evening. David Washington back at a 14th spot. Then Andrew T. Jones with some work to do. The 64 car will start in 15th.
Middle of the field start for the postseason contender Scott Brotherton, who will start in front of Sean Kalist and Rhett McBride, who are in row number 9. Rounding out the top 20, Todd Novosad, who won at Talladega earlier this season, and Jeremy Bazemore in the one machine.
Final time to qualify. It puts Tom Morano in 21st, so the rest will be provisionally based. It'll be Dylan Jones in 22nd position, Kyle Kamer starting 23rd, Eric Stanford 24th, and Jonathan Cadell through your top 25.
Rounding up the drivers on the track, R.J. Williams in the 33 machine and the Redenberg brothers. Should note, Jeremy Redenberg, who will start shotgun on the field, was the last driver out of the playoffs after a rough final couple weeks of the regular season.
Look top to bottom at your LSR TV starting grid. We talk more about this Las Vegas Motor Speedway, 1.5 miles in length, with banking to progressive from 12 degrees down low to 20 up top. We'll go racing today for 125 laps north of the entertainment capital of the world. Trying to keep track, of course, with your playoff drivers. They'll be easily identifiable by those bright red splitters, windshield banners, and spoilers. You can see those very easily on these sets of cars that make up the front few rows, with McClendon, Miller, Friedage, and George leading the way for your playoff competitors in this opener for the round of 16. A lot hangs in the balance tonight. Again, a win and you're in as we start a 10-week journey to chase a championship. And we're so happy that you're with us tonight on LSR TV and the iRacing Esports Network. Pace car to dive down and in. It is Scott McClendon's field to control as the 51 car paces at a turn number 4. And we say, let's go racing at Las Vegas. Green flag in the air. It's the round of 16.
And a good clean start for the top 10 positions. They're already trying to fan nearly 3 wide. Fredericks had to block all the way to the apron to make sure Andrew T. Jones didn't try and duck his way inside the top 12 already.
It's actually been a few weeks since we've seen just a normal intermediate racetrack like this. As Friedage will go to the outside. He gets up in front of Miller. Try to challenge McClendon to the outside. And we're going to go 3 wide now with that duo up top, not making the corner. George is going to drop back a little bit. The 45 car is checking up on the inside as Chambliss tries to hang on. Still 3 wide now, but it's Friedage on the outside and Blake O'Connell on the attack. The 67 car try to make some noise at a 2. He won't go to the race lead, though. And now here comes Skylar Shackelford from 7th. He'll look to the inside, but McClendon will shut the door.
And that time, O'Connell nearly shut the door right in Jacoby's front nose, nearly squeezing him down into Shackelford. They're being very aggressive early on in this race. It's looking like the bottom line, though, in the first part of this one is the preferred line as Jacoby would make it 3 wide for second spot.
He'll get around the 67 of O'Connell door to door with Shackelford, and you can see McClendon try to protect the inside, but the top line's wide open. Here comes Jacoby. second most consistent driver over the course of the regular season. He's got the outside line in 3 and 4 as that 51 machine stays committed to riding the inside line. And in fact, he'll go all the way down to the flat part of the racetrack in the front stretch, trying to shorten his way around. The 67 O'Connell trying to make that third and outermost lane work, but it was very short-lived. And we'll watch this set, a 2x2 continue. Jacoby really struggling, but he stays in it that time off the corner, and then he'll get a shove by Friedrich to turn 3.
And remember, last time we were here with the different package, it was one of the last times actually that we've seen the package in effect in the series. Friedrich was the dominant car after he was able to get by Connor Horn. Wouldn't be surprised to see Andrew do something similar on the long run if we get to that point today in this one. He just needs to take advantage of track position as well as find a way to clean air. I think right now he's still trying to push forward Jacoby on that top side.
And you can see 2x2 now 4 rows deep. It's exactly what we were expecting with this package here at Las Vegas. The 3 again, a little bit of a bobble, outer line out of 4, but he'll stay with it. And funny that the 2 cars that have been going head-to-head longer than anybody else has, at least in this 2019 campaign, are still working together. As the 88 again to push the 3 down the front stretch. Now we'll see at turn number 2 as Jacoby actually gets the advantage down the Nellis straightaway. Quarter car length advantage into 3. They'll draw right back to being nose to nose, but virtually little to no separation. The top 14 cars all still scored within 1 second of each other. Scott McClendon leading another lap that time at the inside line. It is going to take quite some time into a run before you even start to have to get out of the throttle. Of course, cooler track temps. It's only 68 degrees, which makes track temps 100 a lot cooler than what it would have seen over the weekend with the Monster Energy Series starting in nearly 100-degree outside temperatures. So maybe that'll help these drivers out as well. As 7 laps in, we haven't seen a race leader get anything more than a car length of an advantage.
The main concern for me, though, is the temperatures have been going up and down fairly quickly, more so that we've seen all summer, really. So that is something I think you have to be concerned about a driver, which means the grip levels are going to consistently change, not just with the dynamic track conditions, but with this temperature going to make it very difficult. But we're already seeing drivers such as Shackelford, who just let off the gas to get to the middle line, wanting to get off the bottom. The top line is starting to change as the preferred line in the corners.
And you can see that 51 machine on the inside really trying to hold his own, but even behind Shackelford and O'Connell, you mentioned they are moving up that lane or so. Nobody down at the very inside unless you're in a 2x2 battle down at that end of the racetrack at 1 and 2. And that's because the bumps in the center of the corner at that end of the racetrack really loosen you up. And at this end of the racetrack, you can get away with it more so. And I think that's why McClendon then pulls an advantage back in his direction. But still side by side for the race lead, all 28 cars who were scheduled to take the green flag in this race have, and Jacoby's going to go to the inside. Couldn't make it work up top, and it will not stick on the bottom. The 3-car tried, but he had to get out of the gas, and McClendon survives another challenge.
And it's all about carrying momentum, right? That time Jacoby had a strong run of momentum off the corner and just tried to even get down to the 8-bar. I think McClendon basically said, you tried to go extremely late into the corner to make the pass, gave him some room but not too much room. I think McClendon, though, is going to be fighting as hard as he can because this has been one of his longest stretches of lead laps in a row in all of 2019 on the intermediates this season.
You saw the 3 again, peak to the bottom of the racetrack. The 51 really didn't move the block from him, but Jacoby maybe anticipating that, went back up top, and it sets him up for a good run this time off of the corner. Now McClendon will return to the apron, protect the bottom line, and we'll see if it works out for him as they've got a little bit of separation over the battle for second. Friedrich has gained sole possession to that one, and Shackelford is tucked in behind. The next battle would be 4th and 5th. O'Connell Parrish fighting there on back, but the 3-car not willing to give this one up. Jason Jacoby's been known to go at it early in these runs, and 12 laps in of the 125 of the board today, and your race leaders are still again all over each other. Curious if this is going to hurt them on the long run if this race were to stretch out and see some green flag action.
Yeah, the field run's about 55 laps or so, give or take. it's going to definitely hurt their tires. The more they side draft and the more they battle like this, the more it's going to burn up the rubber on, especially on the right fronts of these machines. So yeah, it's an absolute concern. And regardless of the package for these drivers, and this is all but going to help, say, an Andrew Freenosh, who has been waiting behind in the third position, essentially waiting patiently to see what's going on with this battle, because we've seen it from Andrew all season here, Evan. He doesn't want to push the issue early in too much in the mid-run. He lets the drivers around him burn up their equipment.
And he's got a front row seat to if that is the case as we continue to go side by side for the point. Maybe this time Jacoby's got a good opportunity. He had the advantage, 2 car lengths off the corner, but Clinton again get a dive to the inside, shorten up his trip to turn 1, and it actually brings them back even. So I thought Jacoby had a real shot that time at a 4 to clear all the way. McClendon is starting to push from the white line all the way up. Jacoby's got just enough space to get on through, and that time into 3, he's got him. Jacoby to the point, and a caution flag behind your leaders.
And a couple different drivers spinning around. Frederick's involved in this one, a couple others. This was at the tail end of the lead pack, and it looks like Frederick's down the backstretch while trying to avoid a car getting loose, and Daniel Eberhardt ended up slamming off the walls a couple times. That was after contact for Miller for Eberhardt, but Frederick's tapped the back wall down the Manila straightaway and just ping-ponged his way into a few drivers down the track. At least 5 different drivers involved in this at one.
And on the replay, you could see it started way back in 2 with Eberhardt sliding up in front of Jeremy Miller, who gave him a shot to the left rear quarter panel. They saved it, but then it was the 4, as you noted, of Fredericks, who would have gotten into the outside wall, trying to avoid the car's wrecking in front. He wasn't able to get his car back off the wall. Now he comes down. That's a playoff driver collecting Eric Stanford, collecting Andrew T. Jones. So 3 notable drivers involved in that incident. 3 playoff cars having a rough start to the round of 16.
Yeah, that's not the way I think anybody wanted to start that to go, essentially. But again, Miller making the contact to look like the back of Eberhardt. They have been fighting very hard, mind you, for that position. On the bright side, everyone else can now come down and get some fresh tires and fuel. And we were getting to that point where we usually see the pack start to separate. Now they gotta hope for another 15+ lap stretch to try and do so here. Should note, the 45 at Chambliss has rolled his way to the pit lane. Looks like he might try and allocate for bonus points this time.
We had literally just seen Jacoby clear for the race lead. Drag race off for the pit lane is going to allow him to maintain that top position. No major changes for the cars that got service. The only first change, I guess, would be Shane Parrish, who will jump from P6 to 5, getting around the 67 of Blake O'Connell. But for your race leaders, all of the decisions unanimously to come down and do 4 tires and fuel. You mentioned Chambliss drove through, so the 45 car will tentatively take over the race lead. One of your playoff drivers. Curious if the objective there for the 45 team is to stay out an extra time around to get a bonus point for a lap led, or if it was just a case of simply missing his box, which I would expect him back down pit road this time through. So we'll see, as pit road entrance is on the left-hand side. He'll stay out. So Chambliss going to go from 11th position to the point.
Yeah, I want to be surprised to potentially, if we get still the 2 to go signal for the drivers, for him to come back down to get tires, because I don't think you want to stay out in this situation. They're still at 2 to go, so wouldn't be surprised to see him come down this time to get himself some 4 tires and fuel. But the points are going to be crucial, especially those little bonus points. That could be the difference at the end of this at the end of the round for who advances. But one thing to note with that race car, by the way, that car with its sponsorship is a part of is sponsored by Officer Down Memorial Page. They had added a lost member to the service, unfortunately. The 85th LEO lost to the rear quarter panels for this machine entering today. That is a part of the law enforcement officers that have lost their life in the line of duty. Unfortunate to see that happen, but for more information, for memorials for each of the officers lost, fans can go to odmp.org to keep up. Chambliss trying to put drivers and fans alike in mind of this cause.
And it's something that he's been doing on that 45 Chevrolet all season long. So good to see, Brian supporting a good cause. And I suppose, it's unfortunate when you get up to numbers like 85. So it is good to see him representing those names on the car. He is going to dive down to pit road. So that is a couple of, a critical bonus point gain for the lap led. And now the 45 is going to tuck back into pack. And honestly, Justin, as now we get set for the lights to go out on top of the pace car, not against that idea, considering how hard we were racing there. Might not be the worst of decisions to get out of that chaotic top 15, top 20 group early on. It was still a long way home. We saw a lot of 2-3 wide off at the get-go last time. And well, Jacoby will control this restart, so maybe the first few rows will get a little bit more spread out right off the bat. Certainly, I think these drivers are going to be up on the wheel.
I think so too, and they were up on the wheel that entire run before the caution flag. There were, right before then, about 22 cars still inside the lead pack, and they were just starting to separate. So once again, I'm expecting kind of the same racing we've seen to start this event. 3 wide potentially trying to battle for position. And I wouldn't be surprised to see someone like McClendon try and send it, someone like Shackelford to try and get themselves the clean air early in this run, and then try and hold on. We've seen how much McClendon wanted to keep that clean air in the middle to bottom line. Again, wouldn't be surprised to see it this time. Should note the clouds are coming back over the racetrack, so the grip levels are going to go up a touch for this restart.
And we'll see how long that shady spot stays in effect as Jason Jacoby gets set to control. As from the pace car dives down to the pit lane until when they reach the exit of the restart box to get the right foot down. We'll see what the number 3 Ford's got in store for us. Green flag back in the air. 19 laps down from LVMS, and there's the advantage. The 3-car, he'll rocket out to a 3-car length advantage into turn 1. But again, the draft is going to bring this battle for second right back up on him. Probably going to give those cars an opportunity to go for the race lead out of turn 2 as the 88 of Fernandez now, he'll slice to the outside.
Looks like he's seen an opportunity, trying to tank it here. McClendon wants to try and help him on that middle line. But as we've seen at the start of this race today, the bottom side is better for the first couple laps or so. It's better to carry momentum off the banking. Yes, down the front stretch, but on that back stretch, it's looked like drivers have been more comfortable rim riding around that white line before that middle line gained some grip.
You can see the outside swing way up on the outside of the racetrack. I'm sure Jacoby in the 3 wants to get that arc into the corner, but if you step up that lane on the back straightaway, Shackelford on the bumper there would have gotten to the bottom of the racetrack. So the 3 is forced to ride that bottom line to protect the inside, but also he is really sacrificing a preferred line, or I guess any semblance of a viable racing line, hoping that maybe the draft off of the 12 car push it up on the inside can help him out. Shackelford, while chasing the 3, has almost cleared the 88 of Fernandez, who was way up top. Now the 12 car will peek to the outside. He'll make it 3 wide for the race lead for just a moment. He is all the way in front now with the 88 Ford as Fernandez gets on his bumper. And if it's Jacoby, under about a 2-car length gap behind him, the 12 is going to get a real shot here in the turn number 1 as Skylar Shackelford looks for the race lead.
And that time, Shackelford's seen an opportunity. Had a good run in the middle to middle bottom of 3 and 4. Then knew there was a driver in the middle that would be willing to potentially push in Freenosh. Now, he's up to the point and up to the clean air as to be expected in the Cold Air Production Chevrolet.
The 3 now slides back up in front of the 88, and certainly made it up, or I guess looked for the race lead there, but I still don't think he's pushing it quite as hard as he could be. Side by side, further back. You got the 98 of David Washington into the picture. He's with the 5, but he'll have to get out of the throttle as McClendon, he got way checked up at a 2, and it completely killed the momentum for the cars on the outside line that time. So a little bit of breathing space, top 4 on through, but still side by side throughout the pack. And on the bottom line of the racetrack, Jacoby gets back in front for the time being. And you'll then see Thomas George pull to his bumper.
It's getting pretty interesting in this pack once again. This is around the time we've seen cars separate, but they're already 3 wide again just behind them. Some drivers want to get up to the front. Want to get up fairly quick for track position before they all start to separate. But I think McClendon is starting to feel a little bit tight on the corner apex off, because he's starting to lose some ground, it seems, every single time around that section on that middle to top line now.
And now the 3 you see again where cars behind him pull out of line, and this is really where Jacoby's going to have to chase the 12 car up the racetrack, try to side draft off of the cars at the outside line, then dive back down and in. But if that 88 of Freinage could give Shackelford a shove here, they'll have a real opportunity at getting all the way around the 3. It just took them a little bit too long to actually get connected there, and the 12 will have that small advantage down and into the corner. Jason Jacoby, right foot all the way to the floor, but on the inside line, taking the shorter way around, is able to stick with that 3-car train up on the outer line that now sees even George transitioning from the bottom to the top as these tires get a little bit of life into them, and they do have to move up a little bit to stay in the throttle.
And it looks like they all want to actually freight train Jacoby, knowing that the middle line started to come into play. This is around where it happened last time in the first run of the race. But Jacoby, it still looks like he's trying as hard as he can to push down to that bottom of the corner exit. The problem is, a middle off, it's starting to push up, and he has to let off the throttle to make sure he doesn't squeeze the car above him into the fence or end up pushing himself into the wall. There's a bump of the throttle right there, and now Jacoby might have to try and find a way into that middle line if he wants to stop the bleeding a bit.
And we'll see. He'll stay on the bottom right now, but is he going to move up and off of the white line? No, he'll stick through the bumps there in the center, 1 and 2, and you can see right there as the 12 stays in it, Jacoby loses a ton of momentum, but on the outside, Shackelford with a half a car length to spare, he'll take over the race lead now in turns 3 and 4. The 88 of Freinage following him through, and that is now a fight for second position. These drivers saw that tire fall off coming, moved up that lane, and you can see the 3-car, one of the only ones still down low. McClendon's also there in that bright yellow 51, but again, the 3 can't hold it down. Freinage around the outside to second.
Yeah, he really had to let off the gas that time to make sure he didn't plow into Freinage and George. At this point, if I'm Jacoby, I look for the first opening up from the middle line and take it. It might be dicey, but he's got to find a way to that line because he's struggling off of turn 2, especially now since he's been stuck on this bottom side. Look at how hard he's trying to send it here on the bottom side. Wouldn't be surprised to see him slide up. That's what he does. Finds a hole and makes it.
Yeah, he finally gets a spot there. If he didn't get it that time, something tells me that Anna George would have been up and around the outside, and that may have happened a few more times given all of the traffic back here. So Jacoby fortunate to find a spot in line, and now you see the single file train led by, of course, that 12 of Shackelford to the race lead from 7th on the grid. Brett McBride in the 5 is your biggest mover so far today. The number 5 machine started in 18th. He's 5th and is just in front of a battle. It sees McClendon and Eberhardt doing a battle, and well, that 51 machine on the inside of the racetrack not having any help. The non-playoff drivers aren't cutting him a break. David Washington way up the hill in 3 and 4, and he'll slice right back down to the inside, cross him over off of the corner as that 51 desperately tries to get a spot back here.
Yeah, McClendon looked like in turn 3 actually tried to push him up that high on the racetrack, had a late entry. So he's trying to shun these drivers that are not in the postseason or potentially slowing him up. Take a look at how much they've already lost to the side draft alone in this battle for about a lap. Give or take about 3-4 car lengths already lost to the back end of Danny Eberhardt. If you're McClendon, you want to get by him and want to get by him this lap by to try and continue to stay in the lead group.
They really don't give him an opportunity to fight back in this one. So we'll see if Washington can close this one out. I think the 98 would have preferred to stay up on the outside, but when McClendon came up to block him, he really had no choice but to not waste all that speed that he had, and eventually did cross back down to the bottom. But McClendon is able to successfully defend the battle for 7th. And he'll try to make up what is now a 7-car length gap back to Eberhardt. At see if that is a distance that he can get back up to while the draft is still well in effect. These cars, again, are pretty much still full throttle. You're not seeing corner speeds for at least the top guys under 175 miles an hour as they stay in it. But this run now, a tad bit longer than the one that we saw to begin this race, which led to the first caution flag tonight. 3 playoff drivers were involved in that one. So now, longest run of the evening. First time we're seeing cars single file out. Doesn't mean there's not battling. Jason Jacoby in third, still trying to get back and around for Renage. He's peeking to the outside. The 18 car squeezed him up to the fence that time in one as to not allow it to happen. But certainly now drivers have to work a lot harder to get inside of positioning or outside if they want to challenge for a spot.
Yeah, and some of the drivers also, mind you, trying to find that clean air essentially. Freenach is trying to use the bottom line, for example. Well, Jacoby's trying to use kind of the Kyle Busch line we've seen a little bit when he was charging up to the field after the damage at Las Vegas last night. Try and use the top line, ramp it down the banking, and find the cleanest air. Has to be a couple lanes up, I think you referred to after his exciting race, depending on the fan point of view. But some of the real aspects can come in like that, where drivers have to search for the air to be able to carry the momentum and not get aero tight in the corners on the racetrack.
3 wide, back at about 20th position. The 34 cars up on the outside. That's Todd Novosad with the 20 of Brotherton in the middle. The 33 of RJ Williams down low. So yes, it is a good point just to prove that there is still battling going on all throughout the racetrack. Jacoby, Freenach pushing each other down the back straightaway. So, wherever you look, and that's because you see that big single file snake down the back straightaway. And if you do feel like someone's closing in on you, you'll see cars duck down to the inside to pull back up because, well, they don't want the car behind them to just get all of that draft just straight down the stretch and the close rate back up to them. But that draft is going to keep cars single file and close enough to one another to the point where if you make a mistake, you're probably going to get jumped on. But it is going to become increasingly more difficult for cars that aren't back in 20th position, these top cars especially, to make passes now at this point in a run.
Yeah, but they're going to have to deal with the lap car. Actually, Sean Kalis getting out of the way just in time before the leaders come in, so he'll stay out of the effect of the leaders. That could have caused a bit of diciness, but that's something to potentially watch for with some of these drivers if the pack split up even more than they have. Right now, the gap between first and 10th is still 2 seconds. There's still about 15 cars, about 3.5 to 4 seconds, so everyone's keeping within range of Shackelford, Freenach, and Jacoby. That opens up the door for potential strategy because based on the fuel and when we got the yellow flag, there is the potential chance that we might see a 2-stopper for some of the drivers today.
And that is given if this can stay green. 85 laps to go from this point. Side by side again for second spot. Jacoby was finally able to get a nose out to the outside of the 88. And once he got the positioning, got it done quickly. So Jacoby now back into second. In fact, we'll fight for fourth behind him as Daniel Everhart going to drive up the inside. He'll try to make a splash on the 9 of Thomas George. As the 90 of Everhart now trying to establish himself as the top-running non-playoff driver, mixing it up with these guys.
Remember, he had that mega save for the second straight week in a row, a part of that first caution flag after the contact. So he's got some talent. It's just been a nightmare of a season for positioning for the 90 machine. He's been involved in some incidents. He's had to miss some races. It's been a rough season for Eberhard, but I think there's a chance we see him be strong, even more stronger in 2020 if he can get the same amount of consistency that we've seen when he's been at his best. And at his best is attacking one of his teammates for third.
And that's what we see right now as this battle continues on. Meanwhile, up in front of them, Jason Jacoby has gotten to the back bumper of Shackelford. He shoved him all the way down and into the corner. So no doubt that the 3 wants to be aggressive from the get-go, but Everhart is finding success on an inside line. That about 10 laps into this run, a lot of drivers abandoned, deciding to move up the racetrack a little bit in hopes of staying more consistently in the throttle. This time at a 2, he's going to be tied, and they're going to make contact off the corner as he was not all the way by. But Everhart up in front of the 88 car, and non-playoff driver mixing it up with a championship favorite as they got together, but nonetheless, Eberhard now gets the spot, and he's up to a race-high second position.
Yeah, that was a decent slide overall, though. Eberhard seen the chance and took it. Friedrich didn't realize at the last second that he had to get out of the throttle before that contact. That was for P3 specifically, though. But keep an eye on that second place car again of Jacoby, though, because he is getting stronger off the corner exits, I think, compared to Shackelford. Shackelford's been trying to turn it down the baking in 1 and 2 specifically, but it's not been working. Jacoby's been much faster off of 3 and 4 because he's been keeping it up to the top side, and now he's got a decent run. Had to let off, though. Nearly sent it to the back end of the 12.
And this is something that I don't think is going to be deterred as far as, we talk about it. And it's even something that we asked somebody like a Jason Jacoby, last week at Indianapolis, Justin, when you get to the playoffs, do you change how you drive? Do you try to go for the race win, maybe gamble a little bit more, or at least in these earlier rounds, if you're not in a precarious position, just go for the points? And it's clear that at least the 3 machine is going to continue to drive at 110%, just like it would be if he was, in a must-win situation, despite the fact that, again, he comes into this evening with the 12 bonus points ahead of the majority of the field. That's courtesy of 4 race wins over the course of this 2019 campaign so far. Is struggling a little bit more to get that outside on Shackelford. It is always tricky to establish outside positioning because, of course, when you stick it out to the outside of somebody, you're naturally slowing yourself down by trying to go the longer way around. And even there, maybe in turn 1, probably could have dove to the bottom. At least didn't decide to do it that time. But if he wants to go to the race lead, he better pick it up. And he's way too tight at a corner 2. And Daniel Eberhard there to pick up the pieces. He'll go by on the inside. And now the Bernani Ford car is up to second.
Yeah, he really got tight off the corner and exit. Had to let off that gas to make sure he didn't slam into the wall. But this is not going to help Jacoby. He didn't get that same ramp effect done this time off of turn 4. Now he's going to have to deal with a bit more dirty air, not just from 1 car, but from 2. I think at this point, if you're Jacoby, you just stay patient right now, because while you have the 12-point advantage, yes, coming into today compared to a majority of the postseason field, you don't want to have to rely on it, so to speak. You kind of want it for insurance, yes, but you kind of don't want your insurance to go away by being over-aggressive in the early rounds of the playoffs. We've seen it backfire in real life. We've seen it backfire in various series on the iRacing service. You don't want it to backfire for yourself.
And we'll continue to watch how this plays out. Of course, tonight just the first race of many in this playoff and the chase towards the championship. But this first round, as noted earlier, Vegas this week, Richmond and Charlotte will cut us from our current 16 car field down to 12. Of course, you can catch all of those here Monday nights on LSR TV and the iRacing Sports Network. Continuing to watch, though, I would have thought at this point in the run that maybe somebody would have established themselves as the better car, pulled away, but we have yet to see it. Kevin Harvick or Martin Truex Jr. figure it out, because the top 4 continue to actually only get closer together now as the 88 of Freenage has gone to the inside, and Jason Jacoby fighting for third. We know that Jacoby was one of the more aggressive drivers early in the run. It does appear that that is hurting him now at this stage, because he's really struggled at this end of the racetrack in turn 2 numerous times. That's how Eberhard got around, and Freenage isn't going to get the job done that time. Did not have enough, but I mean, the 3 car is certainly working hard.
Yeah, he might have actually burned up that right front a bit more compared to the rest of his competitors. That's why he's struggling now and off of turn 2 the most. But you've seen how he did that pass. Seen the chance to push down the driver on the bottom, forced him to let off the throttle, forced himself to get the faster run. But the problem is, again, Jacoby's been constantly struggling. Even with that, this time he's actually looking like he's over-rotating a little bit, getting off some of these corners, and is now trying to find different lines and try and find clean air to get away from the aero push that he's now feeling, I think, more and more from Eberhard by trying to match lines that you see a lot in real life and on the service now.
This run now, again, with the completion lap number 53 this time by. We've been on about a 33-lap run, actually, to this point. Maybe a tad bit longer as we went back green flag racing for lap number 20 in this race. Ferdinand back to the bottom of the 3. But we do know that Jacoby has liked the outside line, so as long as he's up there, I think he's going to have a good enough chance to hang on regardless of who the challenger trying to dig on the inside is. But, you know, maybe as we close in on the halfway point in this race, as drivers will try to look for that two-stop strategy, but it would be the shorter end of each pit window if we do see drivers decide to take that route. So we'll see if that's how this plays into effect. I think you're outside of the window just by a bit and trying to stretch it for a one-stopper. Both the 3 and the 88 sideways that time down the back straightaway. Skylar Shackelford is running a lane up from all of them, trying to get away. The 12 car continuing to use that clean air, but Eberhard, Jacoby, Freitas and company, they will just not go away.
I'm surprised how much they've actually kept up with the rest of the grouping, but the dirty air looks like from Fredericks, one of the lap cars, affecting a bit of Shackelford through 3 and 4 down the front stretch. How low, nearly taps the wall. Here comes Eberhard with a chance to use the lap cars a pick.
And then 4 is up to the outside, so they'll get squeezed side by side. Shackelford was easy enough to navigate the middle on his own. They get awfully tight that time, but what a rough spot for Anthony Fredericks to be in. Heavily damaged opening race of the playoffs. Happen to watch these guys duke it out for the race lead. And on the bottom line, Eberhard almost clear this time in the center of 1 and 2. It is not going to be enough. The 12 car fights back. And nose to nose, we go into 3. Let's watch if Jacoby or somebody else from behind can sneak up on these two as they race for the race lead.
And you can see how much speed Eberhard has right now. I wouldn't be surprised to see him be a contender throughout the rest of this race. We mentioned he is the highest running non-playoff driver. That also brings up a thought process of, okay, I'm not in the playoffs. Why should I fight for the win? There's a chance to play spoiler for one. Also, if you're not fighting for a championship, you might as well fight for the next best thing. That's what Eberhard's trying to do, and that's what Eberhard, I think, has a chance to do. I think he's got a bit of the better card right now. It's just a matter of trying to clear by Shackelford and trying to, I think, send it in to try and clear the front bumper.
You can see as soon as they've gotten deadlocked in this side-by-side battle that Jacoby Freitas are right back up on it, and we'll see how long it goes on, as it looks like Skylar Shackelford really had to dig that time in 2 to stay even with the 90 car, and the 12 car wasn't running the bottom when he was up here single file to begin with, so it's not like Eberhard's taking that line away from him, but he is running higher up now, looking to focus, it appears, on that big burst of speed off the corners, and this is going to be a big assistance as Jacoby gives him a shove down into turn 1. It's the first time in this battle that Shackelford's actually got the nose back in front, and at turn number 2, he's going to get almost all the way clear. Eberhard stays on the quarter panel, and based on how aggressive he was willing to race against the 88 on the 12, I'm not taking anything for granted and always assuming that the Donnie car is not backing out of it.
Yeah, he is definitely not backing out of it, and he also knows he's got a bit of a wingman, one of the postseason drivers of Jacoby, that kind of wants to see this battle settle down so he can try and focus. Again, the more they fight, the more side draft they'll have. They've lost about a couple tenths of a second compared to how much they've had lost, even with the fall off. So this is now what Jacoby wanted to see. Shackelford back to single file in the lead.
He is able to hold it off, and again, maybe an assist there to the 3 of Jacoby, who maybe wasn't necessarily just trying to help the 12 out over the 90, but just wanted to run the outside, and it just so happened to be Shackelford up top in that exchange between those two. So we're going to go side by side again for a second now. Jacoby trying to get the job done on what he couldn't do about 15 laps prior, and that is to get back into the second spot and re-challenge for the race lead. The 90 of Eberhard still looks very good on the bottom. Again, good enough to give Shackelford a 5-lap run for his money side by side. Nani who likes the bottom, which could be good news for Jacoby, who gets his preferred lane up top. But I mean, I think that Nani car is going to be tough to complete a pass on, as Eberhard again started 11th, running second right now. Highest running non-playoff driver. As this time by, we get halfway home.
And again, Jacoby trying to give a push. He got the lane he wanted the last couple times. The problem is, though, again, because he chewed up that right front on the short run trying to fight, he's not able to run that line properly. He has to let off the gas. The more he has to do that, the more it hurts him. And the more it hurts him, the more it takes away a chance to even make a pass. So at this point, Jacoby not in the best situation as we're just at the midway point of this race. 62 to go.
Yeah, let's take this opportunity to look at top to bottom at our Ford Entertainment Group Midway race break. At lap number 64 of 125, Skylar Shackelford is still in control of the field here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Daniel Everhart in second, with Jason Jacoby third, and Andrew Freitas fourth. Of course, this is the battle that we've been watching for the better part of this run. Rhett McBride not that far behind in the fifth spot, with Thomas George in sixth position. Scott McClendon has scored in seventh right now. David Washington back in eighth spot. Jeremy E. Miller falls to ninth, and Shane Parrish rounds out your top 10.
Blake O'Connell just outside the top 10 and 11, about 3 car lanes back. Dylan C. Jones, though, as a part of the second group in 12th position, plus 10 for the drop of the green flag earlier today, though. Weekly's in 13th, with Shane Bliss back to 14th after some loose conditions early. Kyle Kamer, quiet day, started 23rd, up to 15th in the 8 machine, with RJ Williams working with them in 16th. Matt Miller currently in the midst of a battle with a few drivers for 17th on back. In that battle, Jonathan Goodell, Scott Brotherton, Jeremy Bazemore, all to round out the top 20, 2 by 2.
And continuing on through 21st position in this battle of cars is Jeremy Rittenberg. Tom Morano is 22nd, with Andrew T. Jones damaged at 64, who is involved in one of the only yellows so far tonight, is 23rd. He is the last car on the lead lap. Eric Stanford has just brought his car down pit road, so he's 24th. Anthony Fredericks will take that spot away, so he'll become 24th. Todd Novosad will be 25th. And Stanford by pity will drop to P26. Sean Kalis heavily damaged in the 43. He is 27th, better only than Kurt Rittenberg in 28th position, who is also in the garage. His night is done. That's been a look top to bottom at your Ford Entertainment Group Midway race break. FEGPC has been serving the iRacing community with custom-built affordable computers specifically built and tuned for iRacing. Your PC will come with everything you need preloaded so you can get racing as soon as it hits your doorstep. Get yours today and join the 600 plus iRacers already enjoying a Ford Entertainment Group build. PCs to fit every budget from $540 and up. Go to FEGPC.net and mention code LSRTV10 to get your build quoted today. That side-by-side battle for the race lead is all the way to pit road now, as that 3 of Jason Jacoby is on the outside of Shackelford as they race at 45 miles an hour into the boxes for green flag service.
And a great entry for Jacoby, a bad overrun for Shackelford. They pushed it into the potential window to make it on fuel maybe in this race. But there's a chance Jacoby, even having to be checked up by Shackelford trying to dive to the lane, he's going to take the lead and then some by a couple seconds. Perfect maneuver for Jacoby on this pit cycle on the undercut compared to the rest of the lead group.
You wonder how much Shackelford's going to be kicking himself for that error. He stays in front of McBride, who was also onto the pit lane with them, but it is going to give Jacoby quite a margin as he'll blend back up onto the racetrack. And Andrew Freitas, who took over the race lead, is in this time at a turn 4. So Freitas down for service at lap 70. This puts our drivers about 50 laps just removed from when we restarted this race, at about 55 away from going the distance. So maybe enough to split it in half.
I think it may be even enough, I would be safe to say, to actually make it to the end of fuel. As I said at the top of the broadcast, up to about 55 was my ballpark range in terms of the fuel here at Las Vegas. That looks to be the case for a majority of the drivers who have ducked down to the pit lane to be able to get the green light for the fuel mileage, to be able to get the green light to push to the end of the race. Now, if you're a part of the drivers that are trying some strategy and tried an overcut, since it was a lap and a half, a second and a half a lap difference between fresh tires and old tires, drivers such as Jacoby are hoping this race stays green, I think, now.
George also down to the pit lane from the race lead, so Brian Chambliss assumes it for the moment. He already got a bonus point for leading a lap earlier today in the number 45 Chevrolet, but he drove through pit road, so he'll also dive down to the pit lane. Scott Brotherton is in, McClendon also exiting the pit road, and this may just cycle everybody back on out, which should have the three of Jason Jacoby back to the net race lead. Of course, we'll wait for the scoring to cycle through either this time by or in another trip around. But again, with that advantage over he and Shackelford. Shackelford, remember, was your leader. It was the 12 car in front, but Jacoby came around the outside with a much more aggressive pit road entry and then executed better in the stall is what's going to give him a big upper hand. As Shackelford is stuck in a big battle with Eberhardt, Washington, Ferdinand, everybody all over each other right now for fourth position, but it'll soon become a battle for P2.
Yeah, there's all these drivers are actually reeling in Jacoby, though, by at least a couple tenths of a second, even with the good pit stop. Because remember, everyone lined up essentially behind Shackelford on a lap or two fresher tires, except for the man in the 98 and David Washington, who had the strongest undercut in the field. So it looks like they're trying to work together and utilize that short-run draft, Devin, to try and get back to Jacoby, put some pressure back on him, treat it somewhat like a super speedway race. Not let him pull away, take advantage of the draft, and go from there. Question is, though, from at least with what we've seen in real life and with this package at our 1.5 miles, what happens after lap 10 or so if they don't catch up to Jacoby? That's where you press the panic button for some of the drivers in that draft.
And we'll see how this continues to play through, but certainly with Jacoby nearly 2 seconds out in front, not sure that these drivers are going to be able to catch him. I mean, it is a draft, don't get me wrong, but it is a different kind of draft than what you see at Daytona or at Talladega. So even if these cars lined up single file, trying to push a little bit, I still think you'd be pretty hard charged to make up a 2-second difference as they'll squeeze 3 wide. Sean Kayla stays up high and out of the way in the number 43 machine. Shackelford, though, really getting the short end of the straw here. Lost out in the battle with Jacoby for the race lead and is getting eaten alive by this group. Eberhardt to second spot. Ferdinand around into third. So Shackelford now down to P4 after leading for the better part of the last run.
And might be in a situation where he just wants to make sure he's safe, keep in the draft, don't push things too much, just save the tires in the mix of the drafty group. They're faster, mind you, when they aren't fighting. The more they fight, the more that helps Jacoby. And since they're back to single file, what was an evened out gain a couple laps ago when they swapped the lead car has turned into now just a 1-second gap for Jason Jacoby, and it's coming down and quick already. A tenth every 10 seconds on the racetrack.
And you can see now, I think the 88 and the 90 car realized that, because Freitas could have, on numerous occasions, tried to get around Eberhardt, but instead he stayed on him, and it's not going to matter. Caution flag is out at lap number 78. Just the second time this evening. Sean Kalist is slow in turn 1. We'll see if maybe that was the cause or if it was maybe Jones.
You have to take a look at this one on the SR TV replay. Jones was trying to let cars by, but as he was up on the top of the line, he just ran himself into the safer barrier. He tried to stay up, just lost track of where he was at, and ends up hitting a fellow playoff driver, McClendon, who was having a strong race. Ends up demolishing his race car to bring out the yellow flag. And Sean Kalish, just nothing he could do. He's had nowhere to go. Was trying to let by some fellow drivers, and then just had Jones ricochet right in front of him in the Recmotech machine.
Jones was, trying to get so far out of the way that he just drove himself up the hill, and Scott McClendon's the driver who really takes a hit from this. I know that everybody, sixth on back is tied in the championship, but he was scored into this evening as a number 13 seed. So a driver that, would certainly need to make something happen here in this round of 16 to move on, and had a great night this evening up until this point. That car hard into the outside wall with heavy right-hand damage. Kalist also got a big piece of that front end of that race car, ended up and in the air. but maybe less critical of a championship impact on one of the non-playoff drivers as we slow things down. And despite the fact that we were just on to pit road, race leaders want more tires. They're going to begin 45 laps to go under the yellow. Jacoby, first car to bring them down.
And this had to have helped and definitely will help not just the fuel mileage to make sure they can go to the rest of the way, but as well some drivers who might have tried the undercut and cooked their tires. We've seen how much time Jacoby was losing on just a couple lap undercut. We've seen how much Shackelford was starting to struggle a bit as the lead car and had to fall into the middle of that drafting pack to try and catch up. But take a look at this. We got a new race leader.
The 90 machine gets the job done. Daniel Eberhard, who was spearheading that charge, second and third to close it on to Jacoby. Looked like they were going to get to him anyways, but the yellow flag brought them right on each other's bumpers, and he executed better on pit road. So Eberhard will go to the race lead. Jacoby trails to second, and Friedage rounds out your top three. Working the yellow at lap number 79. We'll take a quick opportunity to step aside. Back from Vegas in a moment. You're watching the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series on the iRacing Esports Network.
Simulated racing can be awesome, but it can also be kind of a free-for-all. Interestingly, auto racing faced the same problem in its earlier days. Whether it was on the back roads, the beaches, or the city streets, the racing was always fun. But there was always a certain level of chaos or danger, until some folks came along and put some order to all of this. Stuff like official racetracks, regulations about weight and equipment, and enforcement of standards. That's what gave us high-speed excitement, fast-paced action, and photo finishes. That's when racing became racing. The guys over at iRacing.com have made the same transformation in the world of sim racing. See, iRacing analyzes the performance and results of each driver in every race, so you can be sure you're always placed in races where the competition will be tight and that those reckless drivers who ruin it for us all will be kept in the pits. Not to mention that with members in over 130 countries already in their vast community, you can find races day and night, so you can always get in the action. You can even join a league of your favorite series and work your way up to one of 7 world championships, offering over $500,000 in prize money. And since updates are always automatic, you don't have to worry about software and can focus on the track. Zip up your fire suit and check out iRacing.com.
And welcome back live to the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway, where LSR TV's continuing coverage of the 2019 Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series, powered by Sim Racers for Mental Health, continues tonight with the playoff opener, the Win Me Money 125, 24th race of the year, but of course the first race of the round of 16. Happy that you're still with us here at LSR TV and the iRacing Esports Network. Evan Pasoko, Justin Prince, and Randy Cheneth with you this evening. Justin, coming off of our second caution flag of the night, long green flag run. Race leaders had actually just taken a trip down to the pit lane under the green before the yellow that would have allowed them to go the distance. It would have been tight, but with everybody pinned again for 4 tires at a fuel, it is going to be a crazy 45 lap or so run to the end.
Yeah, and I think we might see a lot more aggression, even though there's still 43 laps to go. I wouldn't be surprised to see some drivers see this as their main chance potentially to try and take the checkered flag today. Wouldn't be surprised again to see drivers go 3 and even 4 wide in these first few laps off this restart.
We saw them get after it early, but with the chance now that any of these could be the final restart, expect drivers to get up and on the wheel as the pace car dives down and in. New race leader, the 90 car of Daniel Eberhard, going to control his first restart. Green flag back in the air, and it is a good jump on the inside. Friedage
they're
going to
piling
follow
up
him right through to second.
Hold on a second. We got cars stopped in the middle of the racetrack in the restart zone. Stanford and Fredericks crashed to the back of the field.
And no caution as they are away in the back there, but it was a big checkup with Stanford. He got into the wall with the 4, and that was behind your race leaders, so we stay green.
Yeah, it looks like Stanford just had to slam the brakes to avoid Matt Miller, end up slamming hard into Fredericks as he ended up losing control of the back tires and spun it hard to the right, just a touch to the right. Lucky we're still green as the leaders are still fighting with Eberhard trying to hold off 2 lines of traffic.
Yeah, so up front, nothing changes. Everybody's still up and on the wheel. Shackelford on the bumper, the Donnie car. They'll push down the back straightaway. Saw this earlier, but the lead car goes right down to that white line to protect it. Maybe for the first 5 laps or so, tires are going to be good enough to make the corner with that little to no arc, but eventually we're going to have to start to move up, and we'll see what Shackelford does. He'll split the difference. Nice move. Slice it across the nose of Fritos to challenge now on the outside line. So it's Eberhard holding the bottom, and Shackelford charging the outside for the race lead. 3 wide behind for third as this goes down to the far end of the racetrack.
And all Shackelford needs to try and do, I think, at this point is find a way to get to the clean air in front of the 90. That's going to help a bit as 1 car's in the pit lane.
That's Blake O'Connell, the 67, got onto the apron and the car got sideways. And he went straight down pit road. He is going to be forced to stop for a speeding penalty as he falls out of battle for the race lead. That again sees now Jacoby into the picture. He'll go to the outside line, slicing to the bottom car. He's got it. Jacoby going to go back to the point at lap 86.
Yeah, as that craziness was going on with O'Connell, Jacoby seen a chance up the middle. Shackelford gave him basically the top of the apron, took advantage, and drove right on by. They're now 4 wide, making 3 wide for 4 from back. Something's got to give. But look who's in the midst of that. Dylan C. Jones, who is now moving up to the field.
Jones initiated that as the race for the lead is on again. It's the Fonda McBride at the bottom of the racetrack. Eberhard got it passed by Jacoby. So he'll dart back to the inside. He'll go all the way to the apron. 3 wide for the race lead again. And it is Eberhard leading that time at the stripe. Down into turn 1. He'll get all the way clear of the 5 car. What a drive by Eberhard as now Shackelford enters the picture. He'll drive right up to the inside, but is not going to get the positioning quite yet. And it'll be he and McBride fighting over who gets the right to give the next counter punch to the 90 in line. Jones still there 4th as well. Side by side in 5th between Jacoby on the outside and George on the inside. And look at the 5 car. McBride on the inside. And he'll loosen Eberhard up. The 90 goes up the hill. And he'll lose a ton of spots at a turn 2.
And it looked like McBride seen the chance. Eberhard trying to come back down to the last moment. Then was told just as he had to go back up the racetrack probably, oh, car high by his spotter. And then it went a bit to that inverted move up the track for Eberhard. He loses a bunch of spots. They're still 3 wide for 5th now, but 2 by 2 for the race lead with Shackelford back in control.
The 23 car in that 3 wide. Miller doesn't know how high he can go or how low he can go. He's going to clear the Donnie car off of 2, which is a saving grace. 2 sets, 4 rows deep, battling for the race lead. Shackelford a small advantage, clearing McBride for the moment. Is the 5 going to go right back to the inside? He does. Left side tires in the grass as Shackelford tried to protect. He'll go for the race lead again at 1. And McBride now back to the point. Jacoby to the inside for a second. Best restart tonight as these drivers are going at it. That time by with 35 to go.
Didn't I say there was a few drivers who might go for the lead, knowing this might be their chance to win this? We're seeing all these drivers have their chances. McBride not holding any punches. He's being very aggressive. But a man that's also been aggressive all race is still on his bottom side as they're having to deal with traffic to their top side.
And 2 slow cars, Stanford and Fredericks up and out of the way. No issues there. little bit. Tie with the 23 Miller, but you can't expect much more out of the lappers as they got up and high, and everybody survives it for now as Shackelford now back to the inside. Gets too tight off of the quarter. McBride's going to have the momentum, and he will defend for the time being. But we are seeing drivers pushing these race cars harder on this run than we have seen all night long. Jacoby back to the very inside. Jones up on the outside third lane. Can't stick on the outside of Shackelford. And again, maybe a small opportunity to take a deep breath, and then we go at it once more. Shackelford peaking, but not close enough.
Yeah, some of the drivers at the end of this league group have actually started to separate a bit. About 7th on back, losing a couple tenths. About 9th on back, losing a few tenths on top of that to those drivers. So drivers are starting to see this craziness and probably thinking, we need to take a deep breath and think big picture and keep the car on the track because guys like Jacoby are getting tight.
And that's what you get when you push it this hard. We saw Jacoby struggle with a similar thing earlier, and wasn't even pushing it as hard as he has on this run on those attempts, but going after it out of the gate is going to hurt you 10-15 laps into a run, and doesn't expect all these cars to really be struggling on the handling, but Jacoby also doesn't help that he's pinched on the bottom of the racetrack while Jones, Eberhardt, and Donna George are all three lined up on the outside. You can see the three right there, center off. He just doesn't have the bite, and Eberhardt into the fence that time at a 2, trying to stay in the throttle to get all the way around him. So small separation between McBride in first and Shackelford in second. And this battle, third on back, as Eberhardt now finally clears Jacoby and slices in front of him.
I think we're to that point where being on the middle to top is the preferred line like we've seen on that very long run. We're at that stage, and in that stage last time, Jacoby, when he got stuck in the bottom, lost a ton of spots. This time, it took him an extra 2-3 laps at least to find that position to the cushion, but they're fighting side by side for the race lead because Shackelford wants to challenge McBride.
He'll use the apron to try to get as close as he can to McBride. Going to be the better car off down into turn 1. Fast enough to clear him by the time they get to the corner. And I don't know if it's Shackelford wants to make the move now just because he feels like this is his best opportunity to win the race. If he can get it out of the gate again, he was the better car on the longest run of the race, leading the majority of that one before a mistake at a pit lane to cost him positions. But he is challenged as well by Dylan Jones from behind. The 03 car looking to the inside. So Shackelford may be thinking, if I don't go for McBride now, then Dylan Jones is going to try to get second for me, and that could be it. You can only afford to go forwards with 27 laps left in this race. The top 3 have broken away now from Thomas George, who now sits in 4th behind us.
Especially since Eberhardt checked up 4th on back by getting tight the same way as Jacoby has been. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Jones want to push forward. We mentioned him many times this season. Had a late start, started with the victory at Richmond, charged his way into the postseason with a couple races to go, and then locked himself up into the postseason in Indianapolis. And now he looks like he might have saved a little bit on the tires as the craziness was happening, because he's now up to second, one of the first times on the long run we've seen the bottom work for a pass.
And that continues to play out as Shackelford trying to get right back on him, but wasn't able to do so. Dylan Jones now in a race high position. It was a late charge to get into this postseason for the 03 car. 2 race wins for the regular season. It means that he got some bonus points coming into tonight, but he is here to put that 03 Ford in
trouble.
victory
George
lane.
in the wall. George in the wall got loose.
Oh, and the whole field's going to stack him up now. We're 3-4 wide. Eberhardt's around. He'll catch the 9 car. George is involved into the inside fence. And so far, no caution. We stay green. George got sideways. You'll see the replay. Battling with Jacoby in turn 2. He pulled up. Daniel Eberhardt got into him. And as everybody is scattered to get around, those 2 cars eventually came back together, but down it on the apron.
He was drifting all the way through turn 1, all the way down to the apron in turn 2, in fact. But as he was trying to go back up and stabilize the car, went right in the path of Eberhardt before causing all that stack up. Multiple drivers with damage, but again, we stay green. A lot of playoff drivers were involved in that kerfuffle, And now it's a 4-car battle for the lead.
Bitter on the back straightaway as your race leaders close in. That is Kyle Kamer, playoff driver. Very slow and trying to get up to speed as your race leaders are fighting for the top spot at speed. We'll see if he's able to get out of the way. Kalis also slow on the horizon, so there are a lot of damaged cars, many of which are playoff drivers that are still trying to limp their way home this afternoon from Las Vegas as Jones is on the inside of McBride, vying for the race lead. But through all of that chaos, Jason Jacoby, who is in that battle with a 5 on the 5s into the wall. Rhett McBride overdrove it in turn 2. He takes out Skylar Shackelford, and they're now into the inside wall.
And he tried to send it hard, and realized at the last moment he was going to push in the fence, turn it hard left if you look on board, but it was way too late at that time. Right at the edge of the safer barrier, overcorrects back to the wall. Same thing we've seen for the first caution, and nowhere for Shackelford to go as he ping-ponged off the wall. 2 more playoff drivers in a massive incident to shake up the early grid in this race. And what was a 4-car battle has now turned into a 2-car scrap with Jones in the lead. And mind you, drivers like Freenosh had avoided damage in that stack up a few laps ago. So now you have a few drivers with a bunch of damage, but still a couple contenders that have clean cars with 21 to go.
So a mistake by McBride. It takes out Shackelford, and you mentioned Dylan Jones, one of the 2 cars now still in the battle for the race lead. He was maybe a half a foot away from getting door slammed when that 5-car bounced off of the safer barrier for the first time. Again, that incident involving 2 more playoff drivers happened down and on the apron by the time they actually got together and spun out. So we stayed green again, and now inside of 20 to go at Vegas. What has happened to the running order? Dylan Jones leads, couple of car lengths over Jason Jacoby. It is in a 3-second difference to Andrew Freenosh in third. But how about R.J. Williams? The 33 is at a race-high P4. He started way back in 27th earlier tonight.
Where the heck did he come from is all I can say. He was conservative much of the first half. In fact, 2/3 of the way through the race in today's event. But was a part of, I think, actually that group that had that contact we've seen for the first bundling of cars down the backstretch. Did get some damage. He will have some speed down, but he's got a great chance now to come away with the top 5 because the drivers behind, he does have Todd Novosad closing in. He does have Jeremy Miller slowly but surely closing in. But he's in a great track position on the track if we continue to have the green flag and the green lights stay on the track.
And looking at where these cars are up front now, I mentioned Dylan Jones, your current race leader. He came into this evening with the 6 bonus points. He was scored in a tie in 4th and 5th position in the championship. Having a good night. If he could hang on, he could automatically punch his ticket into the round of 12. Jason Jacoby, 12 bonus points coming into this evening, courtesy of 4 race wins in the regular season. He's in second, again doing it very well. Andrew Freenosh, 33 bonus points. He's in third position, also doing it very well. So 3 of the top 4 cars in the championship running 1, 2, and 3 on track right now. In fact, the only one of those drivers not up there, Connor Horn, not in the race tonight, and is going to try to get it back in time for next week as he tries to get his sim computer repaired or replaced to get it back on track. He'll drop out of the points. So the cars that had the advantage, Justin, interestingly enough, aren't really the ones that have had problems tonight. It has been all those cars who were even, that have had good runs, even great runs for a majority of the race, but a lot of them now find themselves wrecked out late, and they'll be in a precarious position headed to Richmond next week.
Yeah, Shackelford still 15, George all the way back in 16. We've already seen McBride come off the racetrack, actually apologized over the radio to all the drivers as a part of his apology to the 12 machine for the contact. A lot of drivers having some rough races that needed some kind of luck. The drivers that have gotten some luck, we mentioned though the top 3. Take a look at where Jonathan Caddell is. Plus 15 for the start. He's got a crushed in front nose for Steel Horse Racing, but he's got a top 10 in the line. All he has to do is hold on to a 4-second cushion, and he's got himself a decent points race. in what has turned into a crazy race. All I can say though is, Evan, I know you're from this area, what is it with the fall races at Las Vegas and its craziness the past couple years to start off the second day?
Well, tell you what, we can't blame this one on the full moon, and it was a crazy truck series race last Friday night, and it is starting to get dark here in the iRacing sim, but still a day race. And listen, you could use all the tropes you want. We kind of talked when we were away under the commercial break that time, Justin. You know, was this going to be a run to the end of the race? Were we going to see a couple of wrecks? We did. They just didn't lead to cautions and restarts, and they could say that they were rolling the dice, that they were willing to gamble, because for those drivers, again, a win would have meant so much to get that automatic berth, to not have to worry about a chaotic short track next Monday night and a first-time ever Roval in 2 weeks' time from them. But sometimes, I guess, you could also use the saying that the house always wins, and those drivers did not end up on top tonight. Dylan Jones is trying to be the only driver to claim victory. 12 more laps to go, and his advantage is growing over Jacoby in second.
And Jones, I mentioned before, looked like he got something set up for the mid to long run, and it's helping. It also helps remember that Jacoby's been aggressive every single time off a restart and every single 15 first laps on tires. This is why he's struggling, I think, for sure, to even gain time. He's trying as hard as he can, yes. But right now, this is all in Jones's hands if this stays green, because Jacoby, he just doesn't have the tires. Even if he gains some time on the straights, he's losing it all, in especially 1 and 2 in the corners. An apex off.
And he does close a little bit that time, got a 1/10 of a second to go back in his favor, but still unable to close the gap enough. With Dylan Jones leading, there is some lap traffic still to go. Anthony Fredericks a lap down at 18th. Skylar Shackelford, once the fastest car on track, led multiple laps tonight. He's 15th and final car on the lead lap. They are not that far in the horizon off of the 03 and the 3. So as Jones and Jacoby close in on them, it is imperative for that Aegis Ford in the race lead to navigate them quickly and easily and find the way through.
And that time it looked like Jones, as soon as he got a whiff of the draft of Fredericks, he just seemed to lose about a 1/10 or 2 in that stretch. Lost that gap we've seen a little bit as the clouds also set it in to where it goes towards what Jacoby prefers for a track temperature. But now he's got a bit more air for the time being. Just has to make sure he gets by guys like Shackelford, Stanford, and Jeremy Rinenberg, and he'll be okay. The concern though again is the aero push. If you're in somebody's dirty air, it can make you very tight. And I think that's what Jones is starting to see a little bit, and Jacoby's seen that. Now, we've seen the same thing the last long green flag run. When a driver reached the back end of a lap car, that opened up the door for a pass.
In the 03 machine, you could bet he's keeping his eyes on the rear view mirror. That time, a couple of hundredths in favor back of Jones, but it is no longer that half a second advantage that it was just 5 laps ago. He is there. It's about 5 car lengths now down the Nellis straightaway. It is time to get to the 12 of Skylar Shackelford. Once they get around him, you might be home free. There are more cars up the road, but I don't know if they're going to get that far. Jones will go to the apron. Shackelford's going to be up against the fence, so the 03 is not going to be able to arc the corner like Jacoby will. This could work out for the 3, but if he can get around Shackelford by the time they get to the back straightaway, but he won't be able to. Shackelford into the outside wall. He'll spin off a corner 2, and Shackelford's into the fence.
And this is the second time this run he's got an incident. This time, he got a bit tight trying to push off the corner again. Same thing we've seen for the last stack up, and ended up slamming into that safer barrier. Unfortunate for Shackelford. But again, Jones and Jacoby still 1-2 on the track. It's down to 2.5, 2 car lengths, give or take, for Jacoby on Jones after a bit of that checkup.
Well, that's we saw Jones nearly avoided incident on the back straightaway, and now you just saw Jason Jacoby nearly avoid one as well. As again, Shackelford was just way tight, got way out of the gas. I'm not sure if it was because he was going to miss the quarter on his own or if he was trying to let the 3-car clear him in time, but he's out of it, and here comes Jacoby to the inside, side by side for the race lead at lap 121 of 125, and Jones can't hang on the top. He had to get out of the throttle, and Jacoby on the inside. He'll pull the advantage into 3 and take over the race lead, coming to 4 laps to go.
And look what's in front of him, too. 2 lapped cars that I mentioned, Renenberg and Stanford. Yeah, they reeled him in. Difference 10 miles an hour between the cars that are the leaders and those lap cars. I think, again, when Jones got a blip of the draft side by side from him, got a bit tight, got a little bit too high on the apex as well. And now Jacoby just has to make sure he clears on by these 2 machines. And then I think he might be home for it. Use him as a pick if you have to, Jason, because I think he's in a decent spot.
And with that 26 maintaining the top, the 19 tucked in behind, both of the cars in the fight for the race lead have to stay on the bottom line. So neither one of them got the best exit, but the 03 not clear yet. So Jacoby again, a better entrance to turn number 1. I thought Jones had it when he was that half a second out in front, but I just don't see the bite in that race car now to get back to Jacoby. This time by, going to be 2 more laps to go from Vegas. Of course, you got to get to the white flag for it to be official, but Jacoby continues to stretch it out.
And when that last patch of clouds came out, it's like something changed in that race car. Or not when they were reaching just with the draft, but it seemed like Jacoby found something comfortable in the corner of 1 and 2 where he was struggling the most much of this race today. Got the bottom line working that we are seeing work now and got him in part that pass. And now, as long as he keeps the car clean off the walls, avoids any aero push from one last lap driver in Shane Parrish, he might be able to get home for a 1 to go this time by.
So many times this season, as Jason Jacoby catches up to lap traffic, he'll navigate around Shane Parrish, and that'll be it. He'll look to the inside, and will get the job done here on the back straightaway with Jones looking on. But so many times this year, Jason Jacoby was second fiddle to Andrew Freitas. It wins in top 5s and top 10s, but that is going to change tonight in the playoff opener. Final time at a 4 for Jason Jacoby, who wins to advance to the round of 12. Jacoby gets it done in the desert.
Now, win number 5 on the season for Jason, and it was a hard-fought one. He had struggled much of this race, actually, on the mid to long run. But it seemed like, again, in these final couple stretches, especially in the final 20 laps or so, a light seemed to turn on in his car and turn on in his head, saying, I can do something different to try and battle this tightness. He found something different, got the track conditions to go his way, got the pushing to go the right way for Dylan C. Jones with some of the lap traffic. And in the end, he was able to push his way forward to the checker flag and make the bottom work to get the pass done to take the victory.
And it'll be good night still for Jones and Freitas second and third. They already had advantages coming in tonight. That is going to grow, but again, it is Jason Jacoby's night to celebrate as he burns it down on the front straightaway. The first driver to put their name into the round of 12 in this hunt for the 2019 Full Throttle Cup. We'll take an opportunity one more time to step aside, and when we come back, we'll head down to the pit lane and victory lane, talk with the top finishers, get you set for the next race due up in next week. That one coming to you from Richmond Raceway. You're watching LSR TV's coverage of the 2019 Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series, powered by Sim Racers for Mental Health, where Jason Jacoby's your race winner. Post-race coverage is next from Las Vegas Motor Speedway.
Driver, voice of the Lucas Oil Off-Road Racing Series. Introducing Pro 2 and Pro 4 trucks on iRacing. Game on!
Simulated racing can be awesome, but it can also be kind of a free-for-all. Interestingly, auto racing faced the same problem in its earlier days. Whether it was on the back roads, the beaches, or the city streets, the racing was always fun. But there was always a certain level of chaos or danger until some folks came along and put some order to all of this. Stuff like official racetracks, regulations about weight and equipment, and enforcement of standards. That's what gave us high-speed excitement, fast-paced action, and photo finishes. That's when racing became racing. The guys over at iRacing.com have made the same transformation in the world of sim racing. See, iRacing analyzes the performance and results of each driver in every race, so you can be sure you're always placed in races where the competition will be tight and that those reckless drivers who ruin it for us all will be kept in the pits. Not to mention that with members in over 130 countries already in their vast community, you can find races day and night, so you can always get in the action. You can even join a league of your favorite series and work your way up to one of 7 world championships, offering over $500,000 in prize money. And since updates are always automatic, you don't have to worry about software and can focus on the track. Zip up your fire suit and check out iRacing.com.
And back live from the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway, where LSR TV's continuing coverage of the 2019 Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series, powered by Sim Racers for Mental Health, rolled on tonight with the 24th race of the 2019 campaign, and as well the 2019 playoff opener. We'll go trackside, chat with your top finishers in just a little bit. First, as we welcome you back into the LSR TV booth with myself, Evan Pasoko, as well. We'll go trackside with Jason Jacoby in a minute, but as well with Justin Prince and our producer, Andy Janet. Let's take a look top to bottom at our Ford Entertainment Group full race results. Jason Jacoby going to victory lane this evening with Dylan Jones coming home in P2. Andrew Friedage is third, and all 3 of those drivers, which can be considered favorites for the championship, will be trackside with us in just a moment. RJ Williams with an incredible 4th place result for the 33 team. Jeremy E. Miller behind him to round out your top 5. Todd Novosad comes home P6 at the end of the day with Jeremy Bazemore in 7th. Matt Miller finishes 8th. Caleb Weekly is 9th, and Jonathan Cadell rounds out the top 10.
Brian Chambliss with a quiet but decent run after getting loose early on. Still able to finish 11th after some of the carnage. Scott Brotherton, the last driver in the lead lap, in 12th position. Last driver in the playoffs, rather, also on the lead lap as well. Shane Parrish, the first driver, lap down. Jeremy Renenberg, Kyle Kamer inside the top 15. And a lot of drivers downward here had a lot of big oofs today. Thomas J. George today, involved in one of the big incidents, finished 16th. Skylar Shackelford in 2 crashes, finishing 17th. Blake O'Connell 2 laps down in 18th, had spun down the pit lane, and of course that eventually led to speeding / illegal entry to the pit lane. 2 laps down is where he finished. Stanford 19th. Anthony Fredericks had another rough one, rounded out the top 20, 3 laps down today.
In a lot of these cars out of it, and they had good runs to begin with. 21st, David Washington. 22nd, Bashad Kalis with Rhett McBride, Daniel Eberhardt, and Tom Morano through P25. Andrew T. Jones finishes in 26th position. Pole sitter Scott McClendon, 27th at the end of the afternoon. And a car that wrecked out early in this one was the 44 machine of Kurt Rittenberg, who comes home in 28th. That's been a look top to bottom at your Ford Entertainment Group full race results. FEGPC has been serving the iRacing community with custom-built affordable computers specifically built and tuned for iRacing. Your PC will come with everything you need preloaded so you can get racing as soon as it hits your doorstep. Get yours today and join the 600-plus iRacers already enjoying a Ford Entertainment Group build. Computers to fit every budget from $540 and up. For more info, So log on to www.fegpc.net and mention code LSRTV10 to get your build quoted today. Let's head down to RealSimRacing Victory Lane. We are caught up with the first driver headed to the round of 12, Jason Jacoby, your winner tonight in the playoff opener at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Jason, congratulations on the win. And before we get specific, man, just tell us about that late race yellow, which kind of broke up some strategy that we thought would take us to the distance, and the absolute pandemonium that came off of the restart.
Exactly, Evan. Thank you. Thank you very much. I tell you what, it's just when you see guys get in the wall, I think the best thing to do is go low to try to avoid any of the cars coming down. And that was what I had to do to get around that. And I was mentioning on the stream that it was fixing to be a really good race before that last yellow came out, because everyone was able to draft together to reel in the lead I had from a good pit stop. And then, like you said, pandemonium on that final restart, man. Within a few laps following that restart, man, chaos ensued, and I just gotta give props to Andrew. I think I misspoke last interview. I think he has 12 wins this season. I said 11 last time, but it would have been awesome to race with him. I know he had to avoid some of that stuff going on, so he was well farther back instead of contending for a win, but. Just one of the nicest guys ever in sim racing, and not to mention really fast. So that combo is rare but really great, and it's good racing Dylan. I was saving tires after the final thing happened with Rhett and Skylar. Props to Skylar for leading so many laps too. But after that final thing happened, I was just saving tires behind Dylan to try to make a run at the end, and I've been in Dylan's spot before. I was thinking Dylan and I would have more of a fight, but I've done the same thing at the end where, I go on the outside or someone gets to run the inside, and I don't know if Dylan just had to get out of the throttle more or what, but I was surprised that the last 4 laps was pretty smooth sailing here, and it was an enjoyable race for sure.
Obviously very different than our earlier trip out here to Vegas at the start of the season before we actually got everything switched over to this 2019 package. It's also been a couple of weeks since we've been to a real intermediate racetrack. Kentucky was the last one, and that was in the middle of July. So to get thrown back into this crazy hornet's nest to start the playoffs, obviously you guys came in a very good position, 12 bonus points to your name, courtesy of those 4 race wins in the regular season. Didn't need to win, whereas maybe other drivers who were up there over the course of the race felt like maybe this was their best opportunity to do so, to still race it out very aggressively and go for the race win. Just talk us through that mindset.
Yeah, for sure. In fact, Evan, I meant to lead off the interview, but I totally forgot to. We got a win here in RSR at your home track, which kind of was joking about that last week in the interview, but I like to go for wins, and as I mentioned, Andrew's the man to beat pretty much every week. No disrespecting everyone else would agree with me, I'm sure. To get a 5th win in the season is great. I also have to thank, Evan, of course, everyone watching on my stream and iRacing Esports Network. Thanks to everybody who watches. Evan, thank you for the league. Brian Macklin for doing an awesome job administrating. My MO, I think that's the proper term or phrase or acronym or whatever, is to just race close, race hard and fast, and just try to put on a good race. And so no matter what the situation is, I'm always going to race hard and close with guys. That's to me is the most fun. But speaking of earlier in the year at Vegas, the thing that did me in there was I put myself in the wall and I got myself a good bit of damage. And I think the driver I've changed. Second time around, I've learned not to put it in the wall, because that was my undoing the first race of Vegas of the season. And this time I learned, actually the last half of the season I've been learning not to put it in the wall as much, and good results have come from that.
We could see that you were having so much fun driving it out there tonight that you tossed it a couple of extra laps late, did the Legends Oval a few times there as a part of the celebration. It was a well-deserved one. You can kick the feet up, and, there is still some things to gain. Richmond next week, of course, the Charlotte Roval has been one of the ones that I think we've all been looking most forward to all season long, but you already know that you're going to be racing in the round of 12, so with a couple of weeks now to think about that, what do you do in these next 2 weeks to try to help yourself out?
So Richmond is one that back in NASCAR Racing 2003 season, it was a really great track for me. And then I've kind of been third to fifth place driver when we switched over to the great sim iRacing. Huge thanks to iRacing giving us a hobby that we all love and enjoy. And I think Richmond is one. I think I've improved as a driver all around. These last few weeks, maybe this whole season in general. And the Roval is going to be fun for sure. Hopefully I can step up my game at road courses. I was talking to Andrew. I think we were talking about how this package and these types of tracks are kind of in my DNA, whereas there's a ton of good road racers, and that's built into their DNA. So, but I think I might be able to eke out a top 5, 6, 7. It's the Roval. Nevertheless, is a beautiful track layout. Been there in person with Seat Time Racing School, and it's just a lovely track. Win or lose, it's a pleasure to drive. So, that's Richmond and Roval. I think I can still get some good finishes there too.
We look forward to a lot more exciting action still to come in 2019. But for now, you guys have some celebrating to do. So, Jason, we'll let you get out of here. We appreciate your time and your support of the series. Congrats on the race win, and we'll see what you got next Monday night.
Evan, thank you all so much. Good night, everybody.
He's the first driver into the round of 12. Jason Jacoby, your race winner tonight for the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Second position and at a very good spot late, Justin, to go for the race win. Dylan Jones settles for second this evening.
Yeah, standing by with him, it seemed like he was in a good position. Had a driver behind him that had burned up tires a majority of the early to mid runs much of the day. And then something around lap 20 to 25 to go seemed to change. Dylan, what happened as you were in the race lead?
I wish I knew. That whole run there, we were running even, and a lot of times I was 10 faster. That's what I was being told, and it was like a switch got flipped, and he just took off, and I felt like a rock. I don't know what I did. I thought I was taking it easy, but he figured it out at the end.
Were you starting to get tight in terms of the feeling? Were you getting loose? What was causing you to essentially have to get off the throttle and lose that time as you were also at the same time, mind you, have to deal with lap traffic and their aero push?
Yeah, I don't know. 1 and 2, by the end of the run, you're almost back to full throttle. And 3 and 4 is pretty tight, but I thought I wasn't too bad there. Definitely being the leader, once you catch lap traffic, it gets way different than when there's nobody in front of you, and I don't know if I wasn't managing that very correctly and getting myself too tight or what, but it's something I'm going to have to figure out with these cars and how to save tires and keep up your momentum at the end of runs, because that's not what I've been doing well lately.
Well, it was a strong finish for you regardless today, but the next race on the schedule is a place where you've come away with the checker flag, I believe, before. Richmond is next on the schedule. Second date for that. How are you feeling heading into Richmond, which, again, we're going back to short track racing with the 750 horsepower?
I'm excited. With that package, we go back to the old driving style for the most part, which is what I really excelled at. So I'm hoping for a good finish. Put in some practice there. It's a little bit more enjoyable to practice with some horsepower than running wide open for a while. So hopefully we come out with a strong finish there.
Now, is there anyone you want to thank before we let you go for being not just a part of a second place finish, but for a run that got you back into the top 3 heading into the middle portion of round number 1?
Just thank all the racers out there. We were running wide open around here for like Talladega for a while, and a lot of 4 wide, 3 wide. I'm sure it was exciting to watch, but for the most part, it seemed pretty dang clean to me. So that's always good. All the guys at LSR TV for you guys putting this show on, and check out sksimracing.com.
Congratulations on the second place finish tonight, Dylan. It was a good, strong run, I think, from you.
Thanks.
Dylan Jones coming away second tonight, Evan. And it was a fun one, that's for sure. But the driver finished third. I think we've seen his name very commonly, to say the very least.
That's right. It is a third place finish this evening for the driver of the number 8 machine, or 88 machine, I guess you should say, Andrew Friedage. Andrew, congratulations. It's still a good result for you guys up front in the mix all night. Just things kind of got crazy there at the end, and through the mix, you end up P3. Still way out in front, some 53 points above the cut line exiting tonight, so you're still able to build on what was already a large margin coming into this with bonus points. But just tell us about what you were missing there at the end that kept you at a victory lane.
Yeah, I think what I was missing was a draft there. We had that little scuffle in the back, and they got out to about 2 seconds, and once you lose the draft, you're kind of in trouble. So, that's really kind of what we did. I'm extremely happy. This was almost like Talladega for me. Just get through the mayhem and finish third. We'll take our points and move on.
Of course, the grand scheme of things is to do just that, and that is move on. And you could probably keep the car in the garage the next 2 weeks with that 53-point advantage. Not all of these rounds are going to start out with such an advantage as this round of 16 had for you. Again, courtesy of the 3 bonus points for the race wins in the regular season. If you could find some more race wins this round, that would carry over as a bonus to start the round of 12. So it is really critical for you guys to stay in shape, to stay at peak performance. What is the outlook headed to Richmond and then the Roval for the next 2 weeks?
Yeah, I really, really like Richmond. I feel like that's a track I can come out and practice. Nothing for naught. This track was kind of, unless you had people to practice with, which is hard to get, you're going to sit here and floor it in circles for 20 laps. You ain't going to learn anything. Richmond, you can go in there and run by yourself and really learn stuff. So I'm really, really excited to be able to go work and get into playoff mode at a track that, will make a difference. And then we go to the Roval, and I did some test laps there, and truthfully, I really struggled. Kyle Kammer, my teammate there, he was really, really fast. So look for him, but I'm really, really excited to get to these new tracks. And commented on, what we do with the next round. It really sucks that, sometimes we have Talladega still to go. We have Dover, you never know there. And Kansas, I think, is going to be like this. So, there's so many more wild cards than there is last year. It doesn't matter how good your season was. You have to perform, and sometimes you just got to play it safe like we did tonight and just take your points and move on.
And it is still, at the end of the day, a good night. Another top 5 finish for you guys in the book on 2019 as it only continues to get more and more serious from here. But Andrew, will let you get out of here a little bit earlier tonight. Anybody want to say hi to while we've got you?
Yeah, all the usual guys, my family, my brother's putting the computers together, all the teammates, Dave for bringing me on the team. Like I said last week, he's the whole reason I'm even here. You guys for broadcasting, Brian for doing all the adminning, all the fans for watching, all the drivers in this league. I hope Connor Horn comes back, and we'll see what that entails. But I know he's gonna probably have to win one of these next 2. So look forward to him coming back. I hope he gets his computer fixed, and Eric for putting this great paint scheme on this car. It looks amazing, and everybody over at Aegis, No Name Motorsports there.
Yeah, that car looked good slicing in and out of traffic up at the front, Andrew. Again, appreciate you being in the league, supporting the series. Again, we also appreciate the time that you give us here post-race. Congratulations. We'll catch you next Monday night.
Thanks so much, guys.
He's your third place finisher tonight at Vegas, and a thank you again to all of our top 3 finishers tonight. For third place finisher Andrew Friedage, for runner-up finisher Dylan Jones, and for race winner Jason Jacoby for giving us their time. We do have just an unofficial points headed out of tonight. Of course, with Jason Jacoby punching his ticket and moving on, Andrew Friedage, as I mentioned, 53 above the cut line in what is second in the championship. It would be Friedage, Jones, Cadell, Miller, Chambers, Brotherton, George, Kamer, Shackelford, Stanford, and Fredericks above the cut line leaving tonight. Again, that is unofficial results, so some of this could change based on anything that is reviewed post-race. So the drivers in the danger zone, Rhett McBride in 13th, 2 points out. Andrew T. Jones and Scott McClendon tied for 14th. They are 6 points out. And you just heard Andrew mention there, Connor Horn unable to make the start tonight. One of the better drivers from the regular season, the number 3 seed. No points this evening. He falls all the way to the very bottom in 16th position, and he also finds himself 8 points below the cut line. So drivers with a lot of work to do coming out of a crazy race tonight at Vegas. And well, if you just wanted to keep your elbows up, we're going short track racing next Monday.
Yeah, we've seen today a lot of drivers, and Andrew mentioned himself, trying to take the points, go from there. This time, a lot of those drivers that are around that, even about just past 8th, just past about 9th, there's a, mind you, a 3-way tie for 8th position in the standings. They can't afford to have that same luxury that Andrew does. Wouldn't be surprised to see the chrome horn come out, because these drivers are going to be starting to feel the heat to make the postseason, the next round rather, of the postseason, because you don't want to leave it up for the Roval. I'm just going to say that. So don't be surprised to see someone like a Stanford, a Shackelford, a McClendon fight as hard as they can to compete with the Freenoshes, the Horns, etc. of the world up at the front.
And it's just the beginning. 9 weeks still to go before we crown a champion. And if any of these other weeks were like tonight, that it is going to be an exciting championship season right here on the iRacing Esports Network. Until next time, though, that does it for us here tonight from Las Vegas. On behalf of our entire team at LSR TV, the folks behind the scenes, and those up in the broadcast booth on the night in and night out basis. For your team tonight, for myself, Evan Pasoko, for Justin Prince, and our producer, Randy Cheneth, want to thank you for tuning in and to congratulate Jason Jacoby as our race winner. Speaking of championship season, the chase continues this Thursday for the Rick Motec Cup Series on LSR TV and the iRacing Sports Network. You can catch that one this Thursday night at a 9 o'clock Eastern Time start. And of course, we'll be back with more full throttle action next week, Monday, September the 23rd, from the virtual Richmond Raceway. That race and every race of the 2019 Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series, powered by Sim Racers for Mental Health, going to be found right here on LSR TV and the iRacing Esports Network. Until next time, good night from Vegas, where Jason Jacoby's your race winner.